All right, so we're now recording on the cloud end and we're recording on Will's end. So we're good to go. We're going to call the meeting to order. Today is Monday, January 5th of the year 2026, not 2025 as it states on the agenda. It's 6:33 p.m. This is a meeting of the Montgomery Selectboard and Water Commission. The first order of business is to review and make any changes to the agenda. I have three. The first one is noting that it is 2026, not 2025. Second one is adding under new business, USDA rabies management. There's a form that we're going to want to review and hopefully sign off. And then the last change is related to item 2 here, which is the minutes. If there's no objection to that, we're going to table that until the next meeting. Those minutes didn't get posted to the website, so they haven't been available for public review. So we'll table that approval until our next meeting once those can get posted. Anybody else have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yeah, I've got a spare snowplow for the Ford 550 truck.
Okay, can we put that under the general updates?
Yeah.
What is it? Spare plow?
Spare snowplow, yeah, plow.
For the 550. All right.
Where do you want to put it, you said?
We'll just put it under D. Under Public Works D.
Yep.
All right. Anything else regarding agenda repair? All right. If not, we're going to jump into a conversation with our friends from Northwest Regional Planning, Greta and Emily. So the Planning Commission has talked a fair amount about the work that the Regional Planning Commission is doing with the future land use maps related to town plans and the regional plans. The Select Board hasn't really intersected with that broader topic too much, specifically around something called Tier 1A and 1B status that we might be looking at in the future. And so I thought it would be great for Greta and Emily to come and have a chat with this board, just kind of about like the context of what's going on, some things that might be on our radar for the future. There's no decision points that have to get made tonight or really like are even on the table to get made tonight. Tonight's more just kind of like table setting so that as the Planning Commission sends things up to us, the Select Board kind of has an idea of the framing of what's going on.
Yeah.
So with that, Greta and Emily, do you guys want to come sit up here at the table? That way the mics will pick you up and the camera will pick you up too.
Hi, everyone.
And I was going to say, do you know everybody on the board yet?
I think introductions would be helpful.
Yeah, why don't we start with Leanne?
Leanne Barnard.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Mark Gillette.
Hi.
I'm Suzanne Dola.
Hi.
I'm Charlie Hancock.
And I'm Greta Brunswick, senior planner, so at NRPC, and you might know Emily more familiarly.
Yep, I'm like a regional planner at NRPC.
She's worked a lot with the Planning Commission over the last few years. So I have
Part-time resident.
yeah, right. I have some handouts. So the first is, I'll just take one, pass it.
Yep.
And then the second is our future land use map. So over the past a little over a year, we've been working on updating the Northwest Regional Plan to primarily to comply with Act 181 of 2024. And so that act created a new framework for planning and land use in Vermont that is based on regional planning, mainly the regional future land use mapping. And so what that framework does is direct statewide investments, including certain permit relief for housing projects and investments through the state designation program. It directs those based on mapping areas mapped for growth on the regional future land use map in the regional plan. So that is a completely new way of using the regional future land use map. So I think it's pretty exciting. Statewide, the act set a new future land use areas like you have in your town plan, but different. So regional planning commissions use the same regional future land use areas on their maps. When you put all of our regional plan maps together, it's one big statewide land use map. This is a planning map. Each region adopts the map as part of their regional plan. One of the new pieces of the act also is that it gets sent to the Land Use Review Board. This is a new board that governs Act 250, and it also has a new role of approving regional plans. So that's something that we're gearing up for now. We've already sent a preliminary regional plan and land use map to the Land Use Review Board. When the regional plan is approved, some of the implications of the map, certain areas that are mapped as centers, planned growth areas, and village areas will determine the state designations. So Montgomery, for example, has currently 2 village center designations. Those will now be determined by the areas on the regional land use map mapped as centers. And so historically, in order to maintain those village center designations, the town had to reapply every 5 years by submitting another application to the state for approval. That's no longer the case. The designations will become effective when the regional plan is approved by the Land Use Review Board, and the boundaries of that designation will be set based on how it's mapped as a center on the regional land use map. Let's see, and then additionally, the areas mapped for growth, if certain areas are eligible, there's criteria that determine eligibility. The municipalities can choose to opt in for an Act 250 exemption for housing projects. And that's what Charlie was referring to as Tier 1B. And so it is specifically for housing projects of 50 units or less on 10 acres or less. And the areas that are eligible on them are the centers and the village areas. But along with some other criteria, one of the factors is that the municipality have both zoning and subdivision regulations. And so right now, Montgomery does not have subdivision regulations. So that is the reason why you don't have that meet the eligibility, and therefore, cannot opt in because of that. If that were to change in the future, you would be able to work with NRPC to amend the map potentially to have to apply for that Tier 1B Act 250 jurisdiction in those areas. So I guess I'll say a few more things. You mentioned Tier 1A, which there's the act does set up a new framework for Act 250 jurisdiction based on these different tiers. Most of the state is going to be Tier 2, which is the same jurisdiction thresholds as exist currently. Certain areas that are mapped for growth on the regional future land use map are eligible for certain benefits. That there's Tier 1A and Tier 1B. Tier 1B is just the housing, and it's something that the municipality has to opt into it. It's a choice of the municipality, and it has to be an eligible area as mapped on the plan. And then Tier 1A is more of a complete exemption, and those are larger areas. They need to be mapped as a planned growth area. So these areas, Montgomery Center and the village wouldn't, I think that with subdivision, a village area would be possible around, you would be eligible for a village area, which would make you then eligible with subdivision for Tier 1B. The towns that we have planned growth areas in are a little bit larger in scale. They have more complete streets infrastructure, they have municipal sewer and water. And they're just a little bit more like sub-regional centers like Enosburg and Richford and Swanton and Fairfax. So those areas we've mapped as planned growth areas, and a planned growth area mapping designation is what's a prerequisite to the Tier 1A eligibility. The Tier 1A eligibility also does not become effective upon approval by the Land Use Review Board of the regional plan. It's a separate application that the municipality has to do. And it is, there's a lot of other standards and requirements that need to be met because of that complete exemption to Act 250. So it is a little bit of a different, animal than the Tier 1B designation, which, if you're on the map and you meet a few criteria, including having subdivision, then the municipality can choose to opt in, and then it just automatically becomes effective, like the designations upon approval of the regional plan. Let's see. So just a few things to note on the map. The dark purple area is the current, as proposed in the latest draft of the regional plan, the center, the village, two village centers that would become the new designated center boundary.
Where
The
where
hatched
lines are the.
are the old, that
the
or
old.
the existing, the
Existing,
current.
okay.
So it is proposed to expand a little bit, and that's how
Yeah.
this has happened in most of our centers. We've found that the statute allows us to expand those boundaries a little bit to
Okay.
either include, like for example, it's expanding up to include the elementary school property and just a few adjacent areas that are really sort of part of that historic village center.
So just to clarify though, so the mapped village centers that we're seeing here, there's two kind of changes looking at this from our current zoning, because we have a V1 and a V2. Is the idea that the village center would be essentially both V1 and V2 as we understand it, and it would go to the minimum requirements of the least restrictive district or the most? How does that work?
The village center is intended to be that concentrated historic core, that mixed use, civic center of the municipality. I think the way that your Village 1 and Village 2, if you were eligible for a village area, I think that is the more appropriate designation for a Village 2. Would you agree with
Yes,
that?
but it
based on
won't impact your local zoning. So
Correct.
with our understanding of how, when we look at a future land use map in a town plan and say, does this meet the regional plan? We're not going to say this doesn't meet the regional plan because your district is a little bigger. Like, it's still in the same area, reflecting the same general goals for compact development. So it's not going to prevent you from having your zoning districts as they are now.
And is there any benefit to aligning them so that, say, the village center as mapped in the regional plan matches the Village 1 district? Or if they're all non-congruous? If they don't all align,
Yes.
is that like, what are the pros and cons there potentially?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of impact there. I mean, what the real impact will be are the areas that really should benefit from that village center designation and that are eligible to be mapped as village center and receive that designation. Do we capture all of those areas? Because if you think that there's truly some of those concentrated, like civic mixed use core of your center that are not on this map, then that would be something to bring to our attention, because then potentially could benefit from the that designation. But if there is a lot of times municipal zoning districts and municipal village districts are a little bit more expansive than what we typically would map as that, we're kind of a little tighter. We were able to be a little bit looser than the historic designation program in its legacy form, but we're still, really trying to be tight around like, what is that true civic mixed use core?
So, I mean, you can't quite see it that well from here, but just as reference, the map behind us over here does show in that kind of pink red on the bottom what the current V1 is, and then the purple color is the V2 district. So
I think we did have a conversation about going up Hazen's Notch, and we
Yeah, I thought we were good.
I think that where we landed is that we kind of felt like it was more residential neighborhood and would be appropriate for village area.
yeah, and I'm not saying that to advocate one way or
Yeah.
the other, just more as context that if folks want to kind of reference what's currently in V1 versus V2 versus
Yeah.
what we're looking at here, it is shown on the wall over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we're mapping regionally is definitely smaller than your V1 as mapped in your zoning.
Yeah. Just the websites that are noted on this handout here do link to our regional planning page, which you can see the current regional plan. And then at the one on the bottom, it goes to our regional plan update website. And that, there's a regional land use map that's interactive that you can look at there. And then there's also all of the draft sections of our regional plan. We are currently in the process of preparing an updated draft number 3. And so this is in response to comments that we received back from the Land Use Review Board on our preliminary application, along with comments that we received in response to our public hearing and sort of advertising of that draft. Thank you, Charlie. We got some comments from Charlie. We've addressed a lot of those. And I can speak to those specifically if you want, or we can touch base offline.
Yeah, no, I think you guys got back to most of them were just
Yep.
clarifications of lines
Yep.
and things like that. And then I think one of the questions was around future amendments and the how does that work? And if you want to talk about that maybe, since that is maybe something folks are thinking about as far as once this gets developed and mapped today, if in a year from now there's something you want to change, what does
Yeah.
that look like?
So that involves, emailing one of us and saying, hey, we either just adopted subdivision or we're gearing up for that. How can we, make sure to align to make sure that we can have, the subsequent Tier 1B jurisdiction happen as soon as we do have that criterion met. Letting us know. And then we will work to prepare basically an application to the Land Use Review Board that would just amend the map for, there's two features for the, it could be just for your village center, or we could actually amend the map and create a village area. Because with subdivision, you would be eligible for village area around your village centers, and both village center and village area are eligible for Tier 1B jurisdiction. So that's a choice. Towns could say, well, we just want the Tier 1B jurisdiction in our village center. We want it in both the village center and the village area. So we prepare that application to the Land Use Review Board. We'd work with you to make on the mapping amendments. And there's a resolution that you would need to adopt to attest that not only do you meet the other standards, you have subdivision, but that you have municipal capacity to administer your zoning and subdivision regulations adequately. And so there's a few criteria on the resolution that you would attest to relating to that, and so you would sign it. And that is, other than meeting the criteria and having the subdivision in place, that's the only thing that we would need from you to prepare and submit that application for that amendment.
And just to clarify, and outside of the attainment of, say, 1B status, if there were other changes that the town wanted to look at, like, say, going after a village area as opposed to a village center, or say expanding the mapped village center, that'd be a similar process where the town would work with regional planning to draft a revision to the Land Use Review Board.
Right. So if we had to amend the regional plan, we would have to to add a village area, we would have to actually amend the regional plan to make that change to the land use map before submitting to approval for the Land Use Review Board. If you just wanted to opt into Tier 1B to that map as currently drafted, so just the centers, then we would, it's more of an administrative process. We just submit something to the Land Use Review Board. They add you to the Act 250 jurisdiction for Tier 1B. If we are working right now, the amendment process is essentially the same as a regional plan adoption process. I think the hope is, there's some language and statute right now that might create an opportunity to have a more abbreviated, minor amendment process for the regional plan. So that would be helpful if that goes through. So I guess I did want to clarify that. So either way, you're working through us and we're submitting to the Land Use Review Board. We work with you on that. But I guess in terms of the areas that you would be eligible to opt in for, one would require an actual amendment to the plan to add the village area. One would just be opting in to the map as currently proposed, which would be just for the centers.
Great. Suzanne, did you have a question?
I did. It's a lot to kind of like
Yeah, it is.
absorb.
It is
a lot.
There's a lot of- I'm
Yeah.
like center area. You couldn't have had a bigger, like more
Vocabulary.
determinate.
So what is the subdivision regulations or whatever, that's,
So that would mean, like right now, so someone would be able to divide their property into two different lots and just sort of file that or walk into the town clerk's office and ask them to record that in the land records. And,
yeah.
Does that have a process like through DRB the way that?
That's what. So with subdivision, it would essentially be you would essentially need a zoning permit for a subdivision.
Okay.
So you would go and have your subdivision be approved by the DRB, or just a way to you could draft it so that a minor subdivision is administratively approved, but you would need.
Yeah, because right now it would just be governed by the minimum lot sizes and such. So Ellen could look at something and say, well, you can't do that subdivision because the minimum lot size is X, right? That'd be the one kind of threshold. Whereas subdivision,
Because
I don't think Ellen would look at it
I
at all
don't think
right
Ellen
now.
would look at it at all right now because
Conditional use.
no, because it doesn't go through zoning, correct? You don't have subdivision in your.
oh, that's right, because it
Your
wouldn't
bylaw.
even.
Not even
So
Yeah.
no one. So if somebody wanted to create a non-conforming lot,
They could, yeah.
they just could.
But they couldn't get a zoning
Zoning
permit
permit.
for
They
it.
couldn't get a
They couldn't
zoning
get a
permit
zoning
to build
permit to
anything
build on it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
for the clarification. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
I know there's subdivisions come to the DRB now.
Maybe as a planned
Request.
unit development.
No,
just
no, just regular subdivisions.
for lots?
Yeah,
For
for lots
lots?
that don't conform.
Is it just major subdivisions?
There's no major subdivision in the bylaw.
Okay.
Is it non-conforming? Like
Is it
I'm
non-conforming?
thinking about like the one we just dealt with up around Con and that area.
Yeah.
That was a land subdivision that ended up before the DRB. I can't think of why that was.
Triggered.
Or like Bennett's when
Because-
we did.
Is it created a non-conforming lot?
It was, yeah, I think so.
Huh.
But I know they've come before the DRB before.
I'll talk to Ellen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just to
okay.
figure out what the current process would be.
Yeah.
So in order to comply, you would need to require that all subdivisions would require a decision, either administrative permit or a discretionary permit from the DRB, whether it's a 2-lot subdivision or a big major subdivision. And so a 2-lot subdivision can be a very simple administrative approval.
Yeah.
Essentially just checking that minimum lot size is met. But it does need to have that process set up in the bylaws in order to check that box of having subdivision.
Yeah, I see Barry's got a question or a comment.
Subdivision of lots is considered an act of development, which requires an approval by the zoning administrator, and it's generally a pro forma matter, unless access is provided by a right-of-way, in which case it's a conditional use.
So is it deemed development per our bylaws or by state statute?
So it's considered land development.
Yeah.
But
I
you have
think
no
both- Well, definitely in our bylaws and also a land in statute. I'm fairly certain.
Okay.
It's in the definition of land development.
Yeah.
So perhaps it triggers administrative review, but you don't have any development review standards for,
Well, it just, a permit needs to be issued, that's all.
okay. And then Ellen, in some cases, has referred them to the DRB
If they're non-conforming.
if they're not conforming.
Yeah.
All right, well, this is something that we can chase down a little bit
I'm
more
sure.
on to get clarity, but it's a
Yeah.
great question to have and to figure out, like, what are we doing now? So
Yeah.
we're all on the same
Yeah.
page, and then,
One of the other
That's why I
implications
was
it
kind of
has,
confused because we.
even currently, is that having subdivision or not is determinant on whether you're a 1 acre or 10 acre town for Act 250 jurisdiction.
And are
And-
we a 10-acre town?
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, because of that. And so
Okay.
Yep.
no, sorry, you're a 1 acre town.
currently.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Sorry, my mistake.
Oh, yeah, least
we're
restricted.
one.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
We all agreed and
When you
we
said
were,
it-
wait a minute.
It made total sense, yeah.
Yeah, 1 acre.
Yeah, a
currently.
1 acre town,
1
so
acre
that, that reduces the threshold to when you trigger jurisdiction.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whereas a 10 acre town would have a lower bar to be considered jurisdictional.
In terms of timing right now, we're looking to have the plan adopted by the Board of Commissioners at our March board meeting. And after that, March of 2026, so just a few months, we'll have another hearing, I think at the end of February or the beginning of March. And then after it's adopted at the end of March, hopefully, we'll be then submitting for final approval from the Land Use Review Board. So just in terms of timing for any other amendments or changes, comments.
Yeah. Patrick, go ahead.
The map that was devised and is going before the land review board.
Yep,
Okay.
this one. If anyone from the audience wants, or the
I'll grab a copy.
public.
Full disclosure, I'm on the planning commission, but I'm here tonight as a resident of Montgomery. So I am familiar, unfortunately, is painfully familiar with me, but, so I know what's going on, but the plan or the map that's being devised, and that sounds like it will probably be approved in March, that just allows the town to have high-density development in certain areas. It doesn't mean that, said development still has to meet all the zoning, planning, everything.
Right, I would actually say that it doesn't allow or disallow your town to do anything. It's the zoning bylaws that actually allow for development to happen or not.
What does the tier 1 status give us?
So you're not eligible for tier 1. Tier 1A
Tier 1B.
is only tier 1B. If you were to have subdivision and the town select board was to decide to opt in to tier 1B, certain housing projects that would have otherwise required Act 250 permit would not have to get an Act 250 permit.
But they would still have to meet all.
But they would still have to get a local zoning permit.
Yeah, the idea there was that if you give municipal delegation of what would otherwise be the Act 250 process, you could potentially streamline it for the applicant while still ensuring that it meets everything the town wants. The challenge with this is that we need subdivision bylaws, but we also need to make sure that like internal systems and people capacity are there to actually administer something like it. So it's having stuff on the books, but it's also understanding that like you're taking what would otherwise be the Act 250 process in that setting, and the town is administering it. So it'd be a significant lift, if we wanted to do it. We'd want to make sure that we have the capacity to do it and, do it sustainably.
Right now, I mean, anything over, you're at a 1 acre town, so subdividing, 5 acres, like if you're doing 5 units, you're getting an Act 250 permit in Montgomery. So yeah, there's a really low trigger right now because of the way that we're looking at subdivision regulations, this way the state has looked at subdivision regulations in the town.
And obviously, Montgomery has at least the center.
It's anything
part of
over
the
1
village is in
acre.
a major flood.
You can subdivide
Yes.
That limits what we can do too.
what we can, never mind. We don't have to go down the rabbit hole of Act 250. So I guess to ask,
Is it 6 lots? You're right, it's 6 lots.
I think it's 6 lots. Anyway,
It's 6
sorry.
lots.
I only know that because there's a project in town that managed to leapfrog Act 250 by doing a certain
Yeah.
minimum number of lots and then waiting 10 years and a day and then doing it again. But I think, so kind of in the vein of Patrick's question, if you take tier 1B status kind of off the table and you look at just the land use maps in front of us and our zoning bylaws, and you pick 2 parcels, say in the center, one that is maroon and one that is pumpkin, for lack of a better color.
Yep.
What advantages does the maroon colored one, which is part of the village center future land use area, what does that parcel have that the other parcel does not?
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, access potential, if it's a historic property, potential access to tax credit programs. So there are certain tax credit programs that would be applicable for private property owners in the village center for certain improvements to historic properties. It would potentially, there are some different standards of review and how we might look at it if it was an Act 250 project. the project was going to go through Act 250, certain regional policies might be different. It's not like, oh, if it's in a rural area, you can't build there. They're not that restrictive, but we have higher expectations for things like pedestrian infrastructure and for activity developments in a village center. And whereas in a rural area, we might not have that same policy, is not as strong. So there might be some changes to how we view it when we review it as the Regional Planning Commission if it was an Act 250 project. But if it wasn't an Act 250 project, then really the tax credit program
Is the main
one.
and potentially.
I mean, there's some other benefits to the,
Yeah.
I mean, you have the ability to lower the speed limit from
Yeah.
25
I think
or
there's some
down to
wastewater
25.
permit fee reductions
There's
too.
waste exemptions to the land gain tax,
Yeah.
and a ton of grant priority. So if you
Yeah.
apply for a variety of different state grants, so
But I think again, just to highlight, just to bring it back, that like that doesn't implicitly change how local zoning is applied from a density or subdivision or that framing is still governed by the municipal zoning bylaws.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I think we tried to, I think, align, understanding that village area wasn't allowed, that the rural general was the next best.
Yep.
So
And is that because village area would be a tier 1A?
no, it's because of the subdivision. If we can fix the subdivision, or no, if we were to confirm that your subdivision regulations, in whatever tweak is necessary, would qualify as subdivision regulations according to the statute, then I know that we as a commission would be very comfortable mapping village area in Montgomery Center.
Gotcha.
And you can have village area without opting into tier 1B. So
Correct.
you could have village center, village area, but still choose not to opt in.
So as Suzanne has pointed out, a lot of this is confusing. And even if you've been looking at it for multiple years, it's still confusing. So we can let's pause and take more questions. But I just wanted to kind of circle back to the beginning to say, like, tonight wasn't designed to like elicit any kind of an outcome or decision on anything. It was kind of just to put it on the table to begin with. And there's resources here that board members and community members can look at to kind of understand the process. And so I'd recommend, if you have a time, to dig into some of this. The town plan, the regional plan is organized really well in different sections, so you can jump link to link and go right to different chapters that would apply to things you're concerned about or interested in. The maps are up there, they're interactive, so you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can identify different parcels, not just in the village, but the whole town. So I would recommend that members over the next couple weeks, month, just spend some time in there and kind of like try to familiarize yourself with some of this so that as or when it comes back, we're better positioned to understand what the opportunities or challenges are on the table. Any other questions from board members for our regional planning friends?
Not right now.
No.
Any other questions right now from the room, or anybody on Zoom have any questions for Emily or Greta that they'd like to ask?
Question
Yeah, Patrick.
for you, Charlie, or the select board actually, but, all right, it sounds like the regional plan is gonna happen regardless of local input. What about, or is the select board going to, let's say we go towards subdivision regulations or subdivision and trying to get increased high density housing, are we gonna put this before the voters?
So the first response I would say is to your first comment, there is still opportunity for the town to work with regional planning to change what's being presented here. So for example, if we put our heads together tomorrow and said, hey, you know what? We think the village center districts as mapped should actually be a little bit like this as opposed to like that. I mean, we can still go to regional planning and make the case. So this isn't set in stone. There is opportunity for that. As far as the subdivision guidelines go, I off the top of my head don't know the process and statute that's laid out, but I imagine we'd have to adopt them similar to zoning bylaws, so it would go before
Yes.
the town.
Same as the zoning bylaw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
I was kind of wondering, in the village, how come the designated village center area doesn't encompass all of what's here on Comstock Ridge Road?
Probably
Right
the
here.
river corridor.
Is it just
It's
'cause of
actually
floodplain?
it's actually floodplain right
Floodplain.
there.
That's why.
And it wasn't part of the existing area, so I think we stopped at the floodplain.
Okay.
Yeah. And
If
can
you
s-
think that there's specific properties that you really would like to have benefit from the designation, that's some. I mean, we are able to include floodplain. Just knowing the floodplain and I mean, it is old mapping.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we-
I don't know where I don't know where that, like, if you know of a bunch of properties that had lomas there and you really, like, that's good information for us. We know that there's new maps coming out. I haven't,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, because we emailed a little bit about some of the work that had been
Yeah.
done around like some of the LiDAR flights that we've seen and the new floodplain mapping and how that can inform
Yeah.
changes to this.
and
So-
we have taken floodplains out of most of our land use mapping and we're putting it in as an overlay. We are including river corridor. We had been using the state river corridor data, which is not currently. If you go get the river corridor data from the state
Yeah.
CGI database, it is not the Montgomery Village corridor that has been amended.
Amended.
We fixed that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and so,
But so we are using the river
Yeah.
corridor data in our mapping. We've taken the floodplain data out and we're just doing an overlay because it's outdated and we know we're going to get new maps.
Yep.
But in that one area, we didn't end up changing it. If you're but we can have a conversation about whether you think it should be.
yep. Yeah, and you notice in the center too, like the south side of Main Street,
Yeah.
how it kind of carves off the southern or western parts of those parcels.
That
Same thing there.
is river corridor.
Yeah, so same thing there. Where it's driven by a different thing.
Okay. I was just thinking of like historic properties and like I don't know if the bridges, like including some of those village covered bridges that are in there. If there was like, I don't know if they're considered as like infrastructure and historic. If that
Right,
relates
that's a good
to
point.
Village
Like just
Center.
on Fuller Bridge Road, the bridge. I know that was we kind of ended. I think that would be really a great village area territory across
Yeah.
on Fuller Bridge Road there and the intersection with Black Falls Road and everything. But that's all river corridor, and so we currently don't have it. We have it sort of excluded from the center. We could potentially, then it kind of felt like, well, we're just including the actual road corridor. Like it was kind of,
Yeah.
so it was
Yeah.
an interesting conversation there.
That's the challenge, is our topography and.
Yeah.
flood zones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is there other than I don't know the name of that bridge, but the one near Black Falls Road there,
Just Comstock and Fuller are the only two covered bridges in.
Comstock, that
So
one over
that's
there.
where
So
that-
they're both in
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that the covered bridge funding sources are all like outside the state designation program anyway. I don't know that the designation program would add any
Offer anything.
Yeah, I don't think
benefit.
so.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure when you said historic grant.
Yeah,
type stuff,
I think
like-
that they're very special to the state
They
and have
are.
their own like
Yeah.
funding like streams.
Yeah, and the tax credit program in specific is very limited to private property. It doesn't
Income
apply-
generating.
Yeah, income
Okay.
generating property.
Excuse me, Emily, the flood map overlay that you had provided at the planning commission level,
Yeah.
was that based on the LiDAR stuff or the old FEMA maps?
I had both with, like, when we did the constraints analysis, we
Yeah,
did
yeah.
have both there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, for this regional map, what we're using as an overlay is the FEMA map, because that's what it says to do in statute.
Okay,
But we know that that map is not always accurate, so
yep.
we have made some local adjustments where communities do want things that are in the floodplain mapped, where it makes sense, or some communities that know they have a lot of lomas in an area, for example.
No, thanks, because I
Yeah.
remember,
Yep.
you put a lot of time and
Yes.
effort into those.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't realize that we didn't realize until now was that the river corridor layer that we had was not reflective of the river corridor agreement that Montgomery had. So
Yeah.
we now know that.
And if folks,
We've updated
folks
it.
remember, like the process there was that the state kind of did a remote mapping work for the river corridor, and then Stacy came up and we met with her and kind of said like, well, see how the river corridor is mapped way out here? Well, that's all bedrock. The river's never going to move there. Can we get that adjusted? So there was tweaks like that, and then we also said, hey, like there's areas in our village centers that we know are part of the river corridor. And we know there's a risk, but it's also our village center, and so we're going to kind of like implicitly take the risk of saying, we're gonna allow for certain kinds of development here because that's our village core, understanding that it's in what could be. So that's the tweaks that got made there. So thanks for connecting the dots on the state's end with that.
Should we, from a zoning bylaw perspective, should we have, I don't even know if you can do that, you would know, but like if somebody's gonna build in a known flood zone, even if it's 500 years, should we have certain building codes that, they have to build up, all their stuff has to be on the roof, stuff like that? Or I know they do that down south.
Well, you have it for the 100-year floodplain right now. You have regulations on what height it has to be. You could, if you wanted to, extend some of those regulations beyond to, say, a 500-year flood. But currently, as your regulations say, that applies to the 100-year floodplain.
And then there's standards for river corridor.
Yeah, and then river corridor standards.
Yeah, because like I think Waterbury with the state building, they, basically the first level that's in a flood zone, I believe, is all parking area. And then office space is out of the flood zone, and that's what they do in Louisiana, Florida, and all that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if we ever gave that any consideration.
Yeah, I know when we looked through that FEMA standards crosswalk, that was all related to the 100-year floodplain.
Okay.
But you could expand certain standards to beyond the 100-year floodplain if you were concerned.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking of Ashland, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody in the room or on Zoom? Okay, well, appreciate you guys coming tonight. Again, it's like, how do you pack in 3 years of work into like half an hour? It's
Right, yeah.
so
Let us know.
Yeah, so again, like this is kind of just table setting. Folks should take some time to get to know this. Like we talked about, the town does still have opportunity to provide additional comments or try to work with regional planning to change anything that we're seeing that we don't think is right. So dig into it, and then we can bring it back to the agenda at a future meeting if we want to.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming, guys.
Where's this little tiny omitted square on your property there? Or is this yours?
That's my,
This one's yours? Oh. It's funny, yeah?
yeah, I know.
So, we're gonna, actually, it's 7:15, so if there's no objection, why don't we pause now and just continue with visitors, and then we can loop back to Public Works? That sound okay?
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna do, bye Pat, thanks. So we're gonna do just general visitors now for things not related to regional land use maps. We'll start in the room. Roberta, anything for visitors tonight?
Nothing right now.
Okay, thanks. Barry, anything for visitors tonight?
Yeah, two items.
Yep.
First, I've been the town's representative to the solid waste district since it was being organized in 1987. Don't do the math. And the last few years, it's been less fun, and I'm ready to let it go.
Okay.
And my term expires this March, so not my problem anymore.
Okay.
And the other is, I prepared a resolution for town meeting that I would like you to consider, so I don't have to
Do it from the floor.
petition.
Thanks.
And I told my printer to print 6 copies, but I left it, there's only printed 4 rather, so.
So yeah, so when the time, well, I was gonna say, when the time comes to finalize and adopt the warning for town meeting, this will certainly be up for discussion. Is there anything that you want to say about it now, or?
Well, just if the select board isn't going to approve it, then I'll put it out to petition. So if you approve it now,
Oh.
that saves me that hassle.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't think about that, because if we don't, then you can petition to have it added,
Right.
as opposed to adding it from the floor under other business. Do you happen to know off the top of your head what the deadline is for,
Town clerk told me today that it was, I think she said the 15th.
of January?
Yeah.
Okay.
And your next meeting would be, I guess, the 13th, right? No, it would be after that.
It's
Is it?
the 12th,
Right.
12th?
right?
No.
Here, I got a calendar right here, guys.
Today's the 5th. If you add 7,
It's
isn't
the
that
19th.
Yeah, 5 plus 7 is
19.
12 still.
You're gonna add 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
God.
Which is
Yeah.
MLK Day.
19th.
We meet every other week.
Every
Thank
other
you
week,
guys.
right.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's why
God,
it's the 19th.
brain dead today.
Oh, right, so it's 6 and 4, yeah.
It's
so
the
you're gonna be
19th.
meeting
That's
before.
Martin Luther King.
So we,
Day.
mo-
It's MLK
we
Day.
won't be meeting before the deadline for the petition. Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. We'll open it to discussion. Board members, any reactions? I mean, I was kind of thinking we could give members some time to read it and think about it, as opposed to make a decision tonight.
I don't know. I think you just have to go petition it and see if the town. I think you just petition it and see if the town wants to put it on.
I'm sorry?
I think you just have to get a petition to us and see what the town wants. If the town wants to put it on, I mean.
Well, we see what the town wants when it's voted on. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
a petition requires, is it 5% of
I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
the population or the checklist?
The voter
I
checklist.
mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
And does anybody know off the top of their head how many are on the checklist?
It was like 930 something last time I.
I thought that was the total population.
No.
No, I thought our voter
Or was
check.
that 1,100?
That's
Our
1100.
population's more than that.
Population's almost 12.
All right, I'll just check with that. With the
Okay, yeah.
tomorrow, if that's the way we want to go.
Any other feedback from other board members?
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I do think it's more appropriate to be
Yeah.
petitioned.
Yeah, I
Petition?
think so too.
Okay. Well, it sounds like petition's the way to go.
Okay,
So I appreciate it.
okay.
All right.
you.
Thanks, Barry. Emily, yeah.
Yes, I had a message from Sean Coleman related to the hazard mitigation plan. I was hoping I could just share before I head out.
Yeah, of course.
Which is that, it was that you have the correct resolution. There is no need for the clerk to attest.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. That was because when he said clerk attest and I read the resolution, I thought, I don't see a spot for that. I hope it's the right one. So thanks for confirming that.
Yeah, no problem.
We're going to go to the Zoom now for anything else from visitors. So I'm going to do the Hollywood squares in the order that they appear on my screen. So Peter Locker, anything for visitors? Peter, if you've got anything for visitors, feel free to come off mute. All right, Diane, anything for visitors?
No, thank you very much.
Thanks, Diane. Mike, anything for visitors tonight?
If I can, thank you. First of all, Mark, thank you very much for being so responsive with that water issue the other night. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And then it just leaded me to a general question. Are we having an issue up there? Is that just a one-off, or is that something that's an issue right now?
Yeah, it was the battery backup failed up there, so it was showing me a certain level in the tank, and then that wasn't in the tank. I checked it a week before the tank, but physically, but that's what happened. So as soon as I turned the pump back on, you had water again. So hopefully, well, I changed the battery backup out today, so right after that, so we should be all right now.
Appreciate it. And for the record, just so you know, it was New Year's Eve and our water pressure was down. I put a text out to Mark and to Scott. They were back to me within 5-10 minutes. It was resolved within 20 minutes. So I really can't thank you guys enough for the job that you did.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do one last call for anybody else with anything for visitors. All right. If not, we'll move on to Public Works. So item A on here is just the wastewater project. There's no update from the last meeting. Not much has happened over the last 2+ weeks given the holidays. So we're still waiting on confirmation from the Water Investment Division on the new Step 3 bidding and construction engineering service agreement. That's from Aldrich and Elliott. So as soon as we have word back from them, that'll give us the green light or not to proceed with that firm. I did have a chance to talk to Hoyle Tanner right before the holidays, just to make sure they were up to speed on what we were doing. They understand the need for the town to pursue engineering services elsewhere, given the state's response to their ESA that they put forward. If we do end up going with Aldrich and Elliott, we still will need some level of service from Hoyle Tanner, given that they developed the plans and they've stamped them. I don't know what that looks like right now. So we're still kind of in a holding pattern. The next kind of, checkpoint there is the state concurring with the engineering service agreement that Aldrich and Elliott put forward.
So they get it to them? So.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So the states will do it.
Yep. Other than that, the final issuance of the indirect discharge permit is still pending. We thought we'd have it in December. Now it's looking like March. I don't know what's happening other than just too little personnel with too much work at the state. So that's pending. And then, of course, as we've talked about multiple times, if we can get the sign off to get the bid phase with Aldrich and Elliott, we can finally get this out to bid and get some numbers back to reflect on. So that's where we're at there. Any questions on that from anybody?
No.
Okay. Streetscape project updates. So we talked about in the past about the clearing right-of-way and how to clear we need to have right-of-way be cleared for the project before we can go after the bike ped program, which would be kind of the next big slug of money we can go after to actually build it. It's looking like, given the timeline that we're on now, how do I phrase this? Right-of-way, if we can figure out how to pay for it through the budget committee. So part of this is going to get sent to the budget committee to look at what reserve account or whatever do we have to pull money to get through right-of-way, which would be about $50,000. If we can get funds in place through one of the many reserve accounts that we've got money in, the timeline there would put right-of-way clearance out to probably sometime in early April. The challenge there is that the bike ped program applications don't work on the same kind of time frame. And so we can't clear right-of-way in time for the July 2026 bike ped program. That's the spring of 26 application. So the earliest application that we'd be able to go into bike ped for is going to be the spring of 2027. Probably wouldn't be hearing back until August of 2027, which means we couldn't be realistically able to even go to bid for the project until 2028. That's all well and good as far as we've all learned things just take forever.
Yes, we do.
And the big thing here is just can we find enough money to clear right of way to then go after the bike ped funding? The wild card here, or the thing that's kind of the sticky wicket in this, is that we currently have the NBRC funding for this project, which is a little north than $500,000. That was a 2022 award. So we've had to go after multiple extensions over the last 4 years for that. Some of that we've been able to kind of attribute to clearing NEPA. We've talked about NEPA clearance for the project a lot. So NBRC has worked with us to basically say, look, we'll give you an extension as you're trying to clear NEPA, but they don't like giving extensions. I mean, these are from 4 fiscal years ago. And at this point, it's looking like we wouldn't be able to access the construction funding until 2028. So we're looking at 2 more years. That means 2 more rounds of extensions with NBRC. And I've talked about this with Bethany multiple times to figure out kind of what's the best path forward here in relation to NBRC. And I think where we've landed is that our recommendation would be to actually go back to NBRC and de-obligate the award we have right now and us do it from our end. The reason being that to go after 2 more years of extensions from NBRC, I don't know if they grant them. It also puts the town in a little bit of a bad light carrying that amount of funding for that long. So from a strategy perspective, if we go back to them and say, look, given XYZ, we are going to elect to deobligate the funds and return them with the anticipation that we would come back, in maybe 2 years for a new application.
Yeah.
We think that would set us up for better success with NBRC as opposed to trying to just keep irking out these extensions from them.
Yeah.
So one thing to just throw in the mix there, if folks do remember, the NBRC award we did get came with that COVID match waiver. NBRC projects generally require 50% match. We got a match waiver for, sorry, my notes are in two different places here on this. We received a match waiver of 73% because of COVID. So that means that our overall match would be 14% as opposed to 50. So the one thing we'd be giving up by giving the money back is that the match would go from 14% to 50. That being said, those requirements have also changed so that the match waiver for the town of Montgomery, so for FY26, the following towns in Franklin County are considered distressed and require only 20% match. St. Albans City, Highgate, Fairfield, Montgomery. So Montgomery, they now do this on a town basis as opposed to larger geographies. So to our benefit, we don't get looped in with other towns that kind of skew whether we're distressed or an attainment community. So right now it looks like the match for Montgomery to NBRC for this program would be 20%. So we wouldn't be going from 14% to 50%. We'd be going from 14% to 20%. The only wild card there is that if we apply in 2 years, there's no certainty that that 20% number is going to remain.
Right.
So there's some risk there in giving up the match waiver. But again, talking with Bethany, going over this again and again, where we landed was that from a financing perspective, from a strategy perspective, it's in our best interest to deobligate the current award and then reapply. The other thing is that if and when we reapply, we can apply for more money. It would mean that the match would have to get raised, to raise more money to get it. But if we had 2 years to do more investigation of pulling match in that can qualify for other match, because there are, as we know, those restrictions on you can't use dollars from here to match dollars from there. So it would give us more time to come up with that.
And something else might come up.
Something else might come up too. So there are unknowns that could potentially nip us in the backside. There are also unknowns that could make it work out better. But at this point, the recommendation to the board is to deobligate the NBRC award, give the money back to NBRC, and then reapply in either 1 or 2 years for the project.
What were those NBRC monies for?
That was for the sidewalks project, the streetscape work. Yeah. Any questions on that or anything that isn't quite clear? I know that's kind of like a lot of different.
That makes sense.
So then the motion I'd be looking for would be for the select board to vote to deobligate and send back the 2022 NBRC award subject to the streetscapes project.
Say that again.
So it would be for the select board to deobligate and return the 2022 NBRC award subject to the streetscapes project.
I'll make that motion, what Charlie just said.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Leanne. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. I will let Bethany know, and we will circle back to Andrea with NBRC. Next up is water system. This is just carried forward. Discussion is needed. Thank you again for Mark, your work with Scott on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Wasn't aware that happened. So thanks a lot for taking care of that.
I know we're looking into, somebody taking over the system.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to have talk to SOS again and just get it done, sooner.
Okay.
Later. I've got to let something go, and There's just too much.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay.
We'll talk to him again, and, you know, I'm willing to help him transition and everything.
Okay. And just kind of
The state seems to be changing things, and there's more things going on, so.
making it, yeah.
So,
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Just for context setting, we had kind of put a pin in confirming anything with SOS until we had more clarity on the wastewater end of it because of how those two things would end up colliding. But as Mark is saying, even outside of the wastewater project, you probably want to start looking at that. So,
yeah.
so let's put that back on the agenda for our next meeting. I'll recirculate the agreement so that folks have a chance to look at it again. If there are any questions that come up, we can ping SOS with them.
Yeah.
And then we can.
Wasn't there another contractor?
No, so we talked to 3 firms. One of them basically was a no at the door. There was H2O Innovations, which was the other firm that we met with, which was a potential, but after a month or so of back and forth, they said that basically they don't have the personnel to do it.
I mean, their closest operation was Johnson, I think, and
Yeah.
so they didn't have enough people.
Yep.
Oh, gotcha.
And SOS
They
is
were really
the
looking at a
only-
full-time
Right.
position, which.
Yeah.
And they've worked with us before.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I just want to make a note for myself. All right, and we will surface that back up. All right, if there's nothing else under water system general updates, Mark, snowplow?
Snow plowing and, or, yeah.
Well, sorry, yeah. Feel free to offer any general updates, and then we can jump into
You
the
know, they've
snowplow.
been plowing and trying to keep the trucks maintained and keep everything running. So, and it's been snowing almost every day, so I've
Yeah.
put in quite a few hours. Yeah, so the next thing is the spare snowplow for the Ford F-550 truck. Avery had a spare snowplow and Scott has tried it out for the Ford 550. It's a little bit wider than the one we have on the truck, but it would just be a spare, so if something happened to the other one. He wanted $5,000 for it. Knew it would be like $10,000. I know we've had some issues with the snowplows before. I didn't know if we would be interested in just getting that as a spare. It's a little bit wider than one we have, so there's certain areas we can use that one instead of the B plow. So I didn't know if that was.
And it's not so we've had issues with the plow.
We've had in the past, so
Yeah.
So we've had to borrow one or something. And then I mean this plow would fit on any 550 truck.
Yep.
So it would carry on the next truck we have or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd ask, like, is it your and Scott's recommendation that we do this?
Yeah, that's
generally
what
defer to.
I mean, that's why he tried it out just to see how it
Yeah.
worked. And yeah, that's what we're recommending. I mean,
And where would?
most of the other trucks we have a spare for them on the big trucks.
Yep. Where would we look to pull the money from?
Well, probably the machinery replacement. I don't know
Okay.
how much is in there, but
I think there's enough to cover 5,000.
yeah.
And you said 5,000 was what?
Yeah.
You got him to? Okay. Okay, well, I would move at the recommendation of Mark and Scott to purchase the spare plow for the 550 in the amount of $5,000 to come out of the machinery replacement fund.
1 second.
Thanks, Suzanne. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. You're unanimous. We've done visitors, so we're going to go to old business. This is a piece of work that kind of got
Hazard mitigation.
missed by accident. So back when we redid the local emergency.
Updated it, right?
Back when we updated the emergency management plan, we also updated the hazard mitigation plan.
Yeah.
But we never actually adopted the hazard mitigation plan. We just adopted the emergency management plan.
Oh, okay.
So tonight, is just a formal adoption of the local hazard mitigation plan. A resolution of Town of Montgomery Select Board adopting the Town of Montgomery Vermont Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025. Some recitals around what it is. Now and therefore, be it resolved, Town of Montgomery Select Board and State of Vermont that in accordance with 24 VSA 872, the Select Board adopts the Town of Montgomery Vermont Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025. We do this for every plan. It's something that we would have done when we adopted the emergency management plan. We just didn't do both adoptions concurrently.
So make a motion to adopt the local hazard mitigation plan for 2025.
Great, thanks, Mark.
The update.
Is there a second
I'll
to?
second it.
A second from Leanne. Thanks, Leanne. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? You are unanimous in approval. Let me just make sure I do this right before I forget. Adopted by a vote of 4 in favor and 0 against and 0 abstaining this 5th day of
2026.
The form says 2025, Mark.
Okay. You better fix it.
I'll write in 2026.
Okay.
All right. Great. Thank you for that piece of administrative paperwork that we didn't do. Item B here is short-term rental ordinance. There's nothing on our deck for this tonight. We're waiting for the Planning Commission to get us back their revisions based on the hearing and the comments they received. So we'll carry that forward until we receive those. I expect it probably won't be this month, but probably February. So, but as soon as we know what's coming, we'll get it warned and give everybody a heads up and circulate the drafts. But again, the ball is in the Planning Commission's court right now for that. PSB renovation project update. There's also no new news on this. We'll carry it forward. As we talked about before, the firm that was subcontracted to go over the architectural plans one more time hasn't finished their work. That feeds back into the cost estimates. So that is still pending.
Are you just talking about places with the safes?
Yeah, the vault and then some redesign of walls and office space here. Yep. That brings us to new business. Budget committee dates, just as a point of information. These, I think, have been warned, so they're on the website. But the budget committee is going to start meeting next week on the 20th.
That's not next.
I'm sorry. The budget committee is going to start meeting tomorrow. I don't even know what month or year it is. The budget committee is going to start meeting tomorrow on the 6th.
Yes.
And then go on a Monday, Tuesday schedule, excluding Martin Luther King Day. So the 20th will be the last meeting of the budget committee. These are going to be at 4:30 p.m. They're going to be on Zoom. The ones that are prior to select board meetings, I'll be here in person if anyone wants to come. But otherwise, there's a Zoom link people can hop onto.
Speaking of that, are we going to have a regular meeting though on the 19th?
Great question. My take was no.
Okay.
But I'm open to other suggestions.
I am agreeable of no.
Okay. If we want, we can plan to not have a meeting on the 19th, and then if or when something does arise that might require a meeting, we can always schedule a special meeting to address that one thing.
Yeah, my issue is just the offices we close a couple weeks, so make sure we get all the budget bills in.
Yep.
Because we're signing now, but if some bills didn't get, they're going to be out quite a while.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So we can certainly, once those are prepared, we can either have a special meeting to sign off on those, or members can sign off on them like we do sometimes when they're.
I mean, we can ask Aaron and see if everything's.
Yeah, but it's a great point though that we do want to make sure that payments get to move out. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we will plan to not have a meeting on the 19th and schedule a special meeting as needed. I will check with Aaron on timing for payments and stuff to make sure that we don't get anything jammed up there.
Well, won't we have to have a meeting after the budget committee gets done to approve it, or that can go to February? What's the timeline for
That would go towards the town meeting approval.
Just wondering what the timeline would
Give me
be.
1 second and I'll pull up the cheat sheet that we put together.
I think that's why we had the budget scheduled. Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually not directly after that, but
It's towards the end of January.
Montgomery. Yeah, as we're saying this,
So I'm thinking we might have to have.
I feel like we hit
Week
this.
after
I feel like we hit
the
this
19th
last
anyways.
year.
Yeah. I think after the budget committee gets done, there's a certain time we have to approve that before.
Yeah, so the last day to post the warning is February 1st.
Yeah, so we'll have to.
So we'll have to have a meeting before the end of January. So we could look to have a meeting the week of the 26th or late in the week of the 21st.
Maybe look at having it on the
Yeah.
26th or something. Then Monday after the 19th.
Yeah, then we'd be, and that does give us a little bit more time to cross-check
Yeah.
the warning and everything.
So you want to schedule?
Yeah, how do folks feel about a special meeting on the 26th?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought we had. We couldn't.
Yep.
We couldn't get through the whole month of January.
26th, that's the Monday.
Yeah. No, that's a good catch, Mark. I was thinking we could make it to February 2nd, but that won't work with that. So,
I've been doing this for a while.
yeah. And as we're talking about it, I was like, I feel like we've talked about this before, where like Martin Luther King Day gets missed, and then we have to,
Yeah.
And we usually end up having a special meeting anyway
Yeah.
for that. So, all right. Great. So the 26th at 6:30 p.m. We'll get a warning together for that.
Yeah.
Lastly, on tonight's agenda, I'm just trying to find the email that better explains this. Oh, come on. Where is it?
I like they bolded the added things.
Here we go. So Sophia Young from USDA stopped by the clerk's office today, and she has a form that she'd like us to approve and fill out. So there's been a recent uptick in rabies cases in Orleans County, and so the VT branch of the USDA Wildlife Services, are reaching out to towns and surrounding areas for permission to use town lands for part of their response. The form she provided would give USDA permission to use town lands to set cage traps and vaccinate rabies vector species. She says this is unlikely to occur in Montgomery in our upcoming vaccination program, but I'm including it because the form allows that option should we need it in the future. More pressingly, what she really wants us to do is approve this because the form allows them to collect roadkill from town roads, which they test for rabies.
Oh.
I wasn't aware that they couldn't collect roadkill off of our roads without our approval.
They can have them.
Yeah, but this form allows them to collect roadkill from town roads and test them for rabies.
Oh, okay.
So the action would be for the board to approve the work initiation document for wildlife damage management form.
How are they gonna know roadkill is out there unless somebody calls them?
I don't know if they're just driving around looking for it. Yeah, I don't know.
If I see it now, I'll call them.
Yeah, maybe it is calls.
I'll call them, then we don't have to. Yeah.
So yeah, this would be the rabies contingency action of the work initiation document for wildlife damage management for USDA. Is there a motion to adopt this?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Leanne. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. We are unanimous.
They want a roadkill? Go ahead.
Yeah. All right.
Put on the town website, just say we
Yeah.
roadkill to so-and-so.
Yeah.
There it is. Smart.
We have no liquor or tobacco licenses and we have no fleet permits. So that brings us through the end of the agenda. So a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Leanne. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Looks like we are unanimous. We are unanimous, so the board stands in adjournment at 7:47 PM. Thank you very much.
Good.
And thanks for those on Zoom who joined us.